You know, 2021 has been a boom for the housing market. We want to look ahead to 2022. Joining us, Corey Burr. He was with the Sotheby's International. Corey, it is good to have you back with us again this day. The housing market is something that is a mystery to a lot of folks, even those who are in it. We've been talking about inflation being at a 30-year high right now. Has that been the case in the housing market right now with housing prices?
Historically, housing's been a great hedge against inflation. So what we're mostly worried about this year, 2022, is inventory and interest rates. We want the inventory to increase, and what we're seeing is more and more older people who are reluctant to put their houses on the market during COVID feel safer going to a smaller property or a retirement home, and that's going to help buyers have more choices. And then obviously interest rates. The leveraging power that people have had, particularly two-income households, to leverage their ability to borrow money has really allowed them to pay top dollar for these properties over the last 18 months.
So at a time where we see, home sales really have been roaring along, is there an area of the housing market, though, that has not been doing as well?
Really, all three jurisdictions have been doing great. We've been a little concerned about the activity downtown with apartment condominiums and co-ops. They've just been a little bit slower, but it's not that big of a deal. It's just a little bit less impactful than the rest of the region's been doing.
Now, is that because of the fact that a lot of people at the beginning of the pandemic maybe moved out of condominiums, maybe wanted to get out of more congregate settings into single-family homes?
Most definitely. And people were afraid to move into those environments because there's shared hallways and shared lobby space, etc.
But you talk about opportunity in housing as well, too. So is this a time right now where that could present some opportunities for people, especially if they were looking for investment properties?
Most definitely. This is a great time to pick up something that's downtown in a great location. People are going to gravitate back to the city as this COVID wears away. When
you talked about both the inventory and what you're looking at as far as interest rates right now, as you look ahead, Jerome Powell's the chairman of the Fed. He has been struggling to get his arms around inflation. Obviously, interest rates being what they are right now. As you look into 2022, there are new concerns about possibly a new variant of the coronavirus. Is this something that moving forward you think could maybe hit the brakes on what you've been seeing up to this point?
The way that I see it, I think Chairman Powell and his colleagues, their #1 goal right now is to get back to full employment, which we had essentially in March of 2020. And that's being prioritized more than a short-term inflation hiccup, hopefully. So we think the rates are going to stay low to get to that full employment, and we're making good headway towards it.
You mentioned employment, but there was a lot of conversation as we moved through the first year of the pandemic. We're now heading into our third year, that where people lived might not necessarily always coexist with where they work these days because of the advent of Zoom, telemeetings, and things like that. Are you seeing a branching out in our region, let's take the DMV, for example, of where people live in relation to where their jobs are?
Most definitely. A lot of people are working from afar, whether it's on the Eastern Shore or in the mountains. They're not just staying in their own property, and if they are wealthy enough to have a second home, more power to them. I have a hunch, though, that more companies are going to want their people to come into the office more and more as the COVID wears away. So I think people are going to gravitate more to the city.
Well, let's hope it does wear away. Corey Burr from Sotheby's International. It's always a pleasure to have you come in here, explain the housing market to us, because it's a vital part of the economy, and that's always something of note.
Thank you.